martial arts, mixed martial arts, UFC 277 preview show starts now!
What an introduction. I mean, what else could I say? It is the UFC 277 preview show. It goes down tomorrow in Dallas, Texas. We got 2 title fights. And in the main event, a rematch from one of the biggest upsets in the history of the UFC. Julianna Peña this time will be the champion, defending her title against the woman she won the championship from, and Amanda Nunes. We're here to talk all about it, along with the interim flyweight title fight between Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara-France, and the rest of this loaded main card. And we'll get your thoughts on the card coming up a little bit later on. We are a little bit early. It was supposed to be at 2 p.m. Eastern. We mixed things up to make life easier for a man on site, Mr. José Youngs, live from Dallas, Texas. There he is. We have the Prince of Positivity, Alexander K. Lee, who was 10 minutes early for this thing. He was ready to go 10 minutes early. We love that about him. And our gambling enthusiast, Mr. No Gray Area himself, Mr. Jed Mishu, who picked, by the way, and pretty much nailed it perfectly, the Julianna Peña upset in December.
Did he?
I don't think
sure
that,
did.
He never mentioned. He never mentions it.
Yeah, that's never been mentioned before. So
he never mentioned. Did you actually do that?
I did. I've got a couple tweets loaded up that with some video evidence for you, AK. I've been sitting on them, but now
you never you never mentioned it before.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that would have been brought up once or twice.
Yeah,
I'm a humble guy. What can I say?
Yeah, those words. That word has never been used next to Jed's name.
A humble guy who has receipts ready to go at a moment's notice. And that's what we love about you, Jed. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the main event. We'll get to that in a moment. But Jose, let us begin with you. You are in the Lone Star State. You are in the Dallas Metroplex, if you will. What's the vibe like, man? I'm sure it's hot as hell out there, but are people jacked up? Are people on the streets just fired up for this card tomorrow?
It's actually not too hot. It's not as hot as Phoenix. It's a little more humid, but it's not so bad. In terms of like the sense of excitement, I have literally no idea. I have no idea. I've not seen like fight fans walking the streets. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 posters near the arena, but outside of like the presser yesterday, obviously there was a line of people waiting to get in. So if it wasn't a UFC event that I was attending, I'm not seeing fight fans. There's no buzz. There's almost zero buzz. And I'm not far from, I'm only like a 20-minute walk or 5-minute drive from the arena. I really don't feel much of anything in terms of the actual excitement. I mean, the Fighter Hotel is obviously popping. There's like another convention in town. I think it's like for breast cancer awareness. So I see a lot of pink shirts walking around the city, but I don't see many fight fans at all. So lacking the hype and the buzz. Maybe that changes tomorrow. I'm assuming that changes at the ceremonials. It was actually a decent turnout for the press conference. A lot of people were talking about, why is it so late in the day? Obviously, it's because they wanted people out of work to go, and I think that worked in the UFC's favor because there's a lot of people in line waiting to get in that hot Texas sun. But in terms of the rest of the city, I don't feel much.
Yeah, plus the Dallas area has so many people that even if there was a lot of fight fans, they would stick out like a sore thumb because there's like 1 million people in Dallas. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So, AK, gymnastics scale. We've been waiting for this. Oh, by the way, maybe I'll bring this up at the end, but we'll go to the gymnastics scale, AK. What do we have here? We have a very solid main card. We have 2 very intriguing title fights at the top of it. Not a lot of people are overly impressed with the prelims, but I think there's some competitive matchups, and I think there's some prospects who really stand out, who have favorable matchups that can get over a little bit. But what are we thinking here?
I think anytime you have a main card this strong, I'm a big fan of this main card. I think you have to start at a 9. How much do the prelims that we have elevate? Yeah, no, I do. I think it's enough. Look, let's say even if the prelims were like mediocre, but all 5 main card fights delivered or gave us like intriguing results at least. That's a 9. That's a 9. A good main card can really sort of not erase, but can kind of gloss over things that happen. Because I saw people saying, maybe just a few commenters that like, the UFC London sequel wasn't that bad, and I'm like, I guess like us because then most of the main card was pretty good except for the co-main and the main, but I heard people saying like, it wasn't that bad, and I'm like, okay, maybe they either didn't watch the prelims or just the high of Molly McCann and Patty was like enough to for them not to think about it. So I think that's kind of the case here. I think as long as I'm expecting a really, really enjoyable and entertaining competitive main event. I think everyone's excited about, Moreno, Cara France on paper just looks like, as good a flyweight matchup as you can make. And then the rest of the, main card fights are intriguing in their own ways. So just that, you're already starting at a 9. And then you're just kind of hoping for the best of the prelims. I do see a lot of the matchups where I'm a little concerned could kind of be, good but forgettable decisions. But overall, I like a lot of the names, probably because I've been digging into, I've been just recently been digging into the prelims and who's involved in it. But I'll be optimistic here and say this could be a 9 out of 9 if everything hits.
All right, we'll see what happens. Jed, let's begin with you, my man. You called it. December, Julianna Peña was going to beat Amanda Nunes and become the women's bantamweight champion. That came to fruition, and here we are in July of the next year, and we're ready to run this thing back. Have your feelings changed at all? How do you view this second fight? How do you compare it to the way you felt heading into the first fight? Because you are the only guy who was saying Pena was going to walk out champion. Do you feel the same way here? Do you look at it the same way, or do you feel like Amanda switching things up, going out, starting her own team essentially? Do you feel like the adjustments can be made, or do you think lightning is going to strike twice when you look at it from a stylistic perspective?
So I think the adjustments can be made. I honestly, Amanda changing her camp is like the biggest concern for me, because let's be super clear. The problem was not American top team in that first fight. The problem was Amanda. Like she had a bad training camp, lingering injuries that she blamed it on. And that may or may not be true. Who can really say? Certainly everybody seems to think she looked worse than she ever had coming into that fight. But I also think if you just go rewatch that fight, which I've watched like 6 times this week now, she fought horrendously. Like once she got, the first round was fine. And then once she got dragged into that brawl with Pena, she wasn't even winging shots that were hitting. Like she was throwing right hands that were missing by a country mile. Like she just lost her mind and her competitive focus for a little bit and just tried to play Rock'em Sock'em Robots. And she lost as a result of it, frankly. That's sort of what I thought could happen, is that, Nunes was just going to overlook her and get sucked into a fight that she is not really well set up to win, because historically, Amanda taking a 1-for-1 exchange, that's good math for her. She hits harder. So if you go, hey, we can just trade shots, she'll accept that because she will put you out first. Julianna Peña is really, really durable, and so that actually ends up making the math bad for Amanda. The quickest way I describe this fight, to me, this fight is a lot like the Conor McGregor-Nate Diaz fight, like their pair of fights. Or in the first fight, Conor is quote-unquote a better fighter and has more tools in that regard, but he came out, he chucked a bunch of hands. They didn't just knock Diaz over, and then he just tried to do more of that and blew his gas tank and got submitted. Feel like very similar thing happened in the first Nunes Peña, and I think the same thing is going to happen as happened in the Conor Diaz rematch. Now Nunes knows what's up. She knows she can't just go in there and play Rock'em Sock'em Robots. She also knows she can kick the legs. Interestingly, both Diaz and Julianna Peña awful at defending leg kicks. I expect Nunes to come out here and be kind of boring. We've seen her in rematches. Her rematch with Valentina Shevchenko, her rematch with Jermaine Durandamy, fought much, much safer, did not put herself at risk, won pretty cleanly in those, well, not in the Shevchenko one, but won those fights, and certainly wasn't a danger of getting sucked into the fight she did with Pena. And so I think that that's going to happen this time around. I favor Nunes to win, but honestly, the change in camp is a huge question mark for me.
AK, how do you look at this fight sort of stylistically? Because one thing that really stands out to me, and has nothing to do with really the stylistic stuff, Julianna Peña's confidence when it comes to Amanda Nunes is outrageous. It is unbelievable. She just feels like she has her number, and she thought that heading into the first fight. She thought that 2 years ago, and she still feels it now, having already beat her. So, and Amanda, she's very confident she can get this back. She's very confident she had a rough night. The COVID had some injuries. She feels like she just wasn't herself. And Julianna Peña is like, if we fight 100 times, that's going to happen every single time that we fight. What have you made of sort of the build from both of these women compared to the first fight? And does that play a factor in how you think this fight can go at all?
It always does. It always does. Is it an overwhelming factor? I don't know. But in a once you reach this level, if it even affects the fight like 5%, well, 5% would be huge. If it even affects the fight 2%, that could be the difference between Pena and Stilling, or Nunes regaining her belt. Right. That's how important the mental aspect is. I think they're both saying the right things. Pena, you mentioned her confidence. That is one of her best traits. I mean, she has been irrationally confident since we saw her on The Ultimate Fighter. It was very justified there. I mean, she was clearly the best fighter of that cast. She ran through all her competition on the show. She wanted to fight Ronda Rousey years ago. I mean, this was during Ronda, when Ronda was still in her prime. Pena was like, "Yeah, I want Rousey. I'm the one who can beat Rousey. I want to take her out." She was calling Rousey out forever. It was a situation where there was no way she was going to get that fight, but she had been talking about that for a long time. So, and same with Nunes. She wanted Nunes, and she said, "I'm going to run through her," and she did. Confidence. It's easy to make fun of fighters too when they make these proclamations. I get it. I think it's funny when like Amanda Nunes says like Julianna Peña is weird. Yeah, look, personality wise, Julianna Peña is someone that as an average person might not want to hang around with. Like she's really willing to talk herself up and say some outlandish things. But guess what? She's also a UFC champion. That's kind of the mentality you have to have. You can't go into a fight with Amanda Nunes having doubts, thinking about like, oh well, yeah, I mean, I'm confident, but I mean, how good am I really? Like Julianna Peña 100% believes that she is the best fighter, female fighter, pound for pound in the world. She'd probably wants to get that Valentina Shevchenko fight back, and that fight wasn't close. But then again, that is a testament to her, the mindset she has. So that is, I think, a big advantage for her. Nunes worries me a little bit more. I don't like the fluke talk. We talked about it a little bit earlier on the weigh-in show. It's really Nunes. People are wondering like, where does this fluke talk come from? And it's really Nunes who has brought it up a lot, saying like, I was off that night. I wasn't at my best, which I think is fair. But to call it a fluke, that's where you're going too far. You just lost. You just lost. Julianna Peña was a better fighter, and Julianna Peña has the formula that has been, has the best version of the formula that has been Nunes's weakness in the past. So again, just getting back to the whole mental aspect of it, I don't think it'll affect the fight that much, but it is one of the reasons why I think people still have if anyone does have a lot of faith in Pena to pull it off again, mentality is a big reason why. She is not intimidated. She's excited at the prospect of beating Amanda Nunes again, not intimidated. Like some of us think like, oh, I pulled it off once, can I do it again? She's like, yeah, I want to do it again. She probably want to do it a third time, honestly, if she beats Nunes again. That's how confident she is.
Jose, as a big fan of high-level martial arts competition, Amanda Nunes checks off all those boxes. You look at them side by side, you compare attributes, and Amanda Nunes should win this fight 99 times out of 100 if we look at it on paper. And the question is whether this is that one time or, maybe Julianna Peña just has her number. Now, Jed sort of laid out the best laid plans for Amanda Nunes, which would be to slow down the pace, go to the body, go to the legs, and try to slow this thing down a little bit. But Julianna Peña doesn't play that game. Like, how long can she stay apart? So when you look at it it's almost like martial artist versus brawler. And I feel like it's martial artist versus the dog. Like, who's the bigger dog in some of these fights? And I feel like, and I'm not talking underdog, I'm talking just pure grit and determination. I feel like a lot of these main card fights, that's sort of a comparison that we can make. So let's just say Amanda does slow things down for the first round. What can she do to kind of stop Julianna Peña from just bum rushing her, just bulldogging her and turning this into the brawl that Peña wants this to be?
I don't even think necessarily that would be a bad thing if that happened to Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is supremely talented in all aspects of mixed martial arts, whether it's a brawl, whether it's a grappling match, whether it's a technical striking Muay Thai thing. Like, she's a very talented and proficient fighter in all aspects of the game. I just think she just laid an egg in her last fight. Like you said, 99 times out of 100, I think Amanda Nunes wins. Julianna Peña won fair and square. If it does turn into a brawl, Amanda Nunes hits really hard, because what did Chris Cyborg try to do to her? Chris Cyborg just ran at her, and Chris Cyborg hits harder than any female that has ever been in the UFC. And Amanda Nunes turned her lights out. And Amanda Nunes later on said that her game plan was to punch her in the nose once, get her really frustrated because she knows she would come rushing in and then take advantage of it. And that's exactly what happened. Amanda Nunes is very good at game planning. So if Julianna Peña does rush in and a 100% healthy Amanda Nunes is like, all right, let's do it, and then just cracks her in the face like she did to Chris Cyborg, or head kicks her like Holly Holm, or just pieces her up like she did against Felicia Spencer, wouldn't be surprised. Or she could do it like we all saw with Jermaine Randomy, where she just controlled her for 25 minutes and comfortably won a fight. So I don't know. I have no idea what will happen if Julianna rushes forward, but I know I don't think that's the end of the world if Amanda Nunes is all of a sudden facing a hungry dog in Julianna Peña.
Before we get to the picks, Jed, what's the biggest question you have in this fight? What's the biggest one? Because we've seen it, right? We've seen a round and change. We saw how it ended. We saw how it started. And then Peña just turned it on, and that dog came out and she got the win. So now that they're running this back, you mentioned how much the training camp kind of concerns you a little bit. Is that the biggest question, or is there something else that stands out to you?
Easily the biggest question for me. Look, I mean, some fighters do better when they have their own camp. Like, how Floyd Mayweather, a tremendous boxer, didn't train with, he trained with his dad and uncle for like the most of his career. Like that's how some fighters work. They can build their own camps and that works for them. But I am largely opposed to that in MMA, and especially leaving, for my money, the best camp in the world, the American Top Team, and those coaches. I think Mike Brown is one of, if not the best coaches in the world. And breaking off from him to go do your own thing really runs a lot of risks there to, hey, I'm going off. I'm leaving this camp that built me into a 2-weight world champion, into the greatest fighter of all time. And I'm going to go strike out on my own. And I just have no idea what to expect here, because maybe she goes from them to yes men. Like I have no idea how much of game planning came from her inherently versus speaking with the ATT coaches. Genuinely have no idea what this is going to look like. Easily my biggest question of this fight.
What's yours, AK? What's your biggest question?
How much time is left in Amanda Nunes' career? She recently turned 34, so she's not super old, athletically speaking, but she has been competing for a long time. I'm going to say 14 years. So this is her 14th year of professional MMA competition, in addition to whatever martial arts, she was participating in before she got into MMA. That's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of wear and tear, physical, mentally. She has a family now. She has a beautiful daughter with Nina Nunes. And listen, I'm a sap. I love the idea of, well, man, you become a parent and it takes you to new heights, and certainly she's won fights since becoming a mom. It's not like she became a mom and then lost to Julianna Peña. She'd won fights since becoming a mom, but also she's also mentioned the retirement word before. Like there's a lot of flags, that show like is this someone who has achieved everything she has in her career, is satisfied, has happiness, has fulfillment outside of fighting. I know this is something I bring up. I think I bring up on shows a lot. Like, is a fighter's satisfaction and happiness outside of fighting, does it have like a negative effect on them? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't think there's a clear trend. You can find examples one way, you can find examples the other way. Miesha Tate, remember when she talked about retirement, that was before she won the UFC title. She became a UFC champion after time of retirement, so that can happen too. But for me, I just, the combination of things that I've seen from Amanda Nunes, things she said, and the way her career has gone, that would be a concern for me, is how much is left. It was the Julianna Peña loss just a blip, or is it a sign that if we are seeing sort of the downside of her career? Who knows? She might defend both her titles like 2 or 3 more times after this, or she loses to Julianna Peña and we never see her fight for the bantamweight title again, and who knows what happens with the featherweight title. So big question for me is how much time is left for the Lioness.
Jose, what do you think the chances are that this is Amanda's last fight? And outside of that, just what's the big question heading in? Is it one of those two things that Jed and AK mentioned, or is it something else? And apparently,
he didn't want to answer
all of those.
It's a
tough question. You're back. He's back.
There he is.
Anyway, biggest question: is this Amanda Nunes' last fight? Is that what I heard?
That's one of the questions. Could it be? And then if it's not, what else are you thinking about?
I mean, it always could be. I guess it depends on how if she loses and loses badly or loses in the same way, I wouldn't be surprised. But she's been pretty adamant that she wants to go up and down at media day. She's like, I want to go up and down. I want to keep defending a featherweight, and I keep wanting to defend a bantamweight. She used the phrase like, "I'm hungry again. I used to be a challenger, now I am again, and I needed that. And this rivalry has really helped the division. So she used to be at just a better place all around. She also said she's been wanting to open her own for a new team for a long time, and she really detailed. After she lost to Amanda Nunes, she made it a point that she drove back to Florida from Las Vegas. She goes, I need to collect my thoughts and just be by myself for a while. So it was like her and her family to like 30 hours from Vegas to Florida. And she did a lot of soul searching and thinking. And I don't think she's going to retire, especially if she wins. I think if she wins, she says, obviously we would have to do a third fight. If that's what UFC wants, that's what I'll do. There's really not any next person up right now at bantamweight, especially if Amanda wins. There's not a lot of fresh matchups for her. So this guy's not. Yeah, sorry. Audio tech guys checking out Pelican case in front. Didn't want to walk away with all of Vox's camera gear. But yeah, I don't think this is Amanda Nunes' last fight, especially if she wins. I think she'll keep. I think if she loses, maybe she has one more. But if she wins, she'll keep going.
All right, it is time to put our predictions where our mouths are, I guess. Let me just pull up the current betting line here. Amanda Nunes, the challenger, aka a minus 265 favorite, and the comeback on the champion, Julianna Peña, plus 225. AK, how does the night end tomorrow?
I'm so torn on this. I'm a big fan of this show called No Bets Barred, featuring our own Jen Rasheed.
Great program.
It's a great program. It's a great program. It's very solid. And when they were breaking down the main event, I mean, really, it's just so easy to see it going either way. You're either seeing it go like the first fight, Julianna Peña overwhelms her with pace, with pressure, regardless of what strategy Amanda Nunes decides to employ. Whether she fights more tactically or not. It's possible Peña maintain. Well, I lost the complete word. Imposes her will. I lost the cliche I was looking for. Imposes her will on this fight, and it doesn't matter what Amanda Nunes does, right? Maybe this is Julianna Peña peaking, and we've seen the best from Amanda Nunes, and she's trending downwards. Very, very possible. On the other hand, I think, and I thought this before the first fight, Amanda Nunes is the better fighter. Is she just not the better fighter? I think she's more skilled. She has more power. It's what made that first result so shocking. So I'm going to lean with the former champion. So it's going to be new. I think Amanda Nunes. I don't know about all this stuff again about like fluke, and again she needs to change camps, and I wasn't at my best that day. Some of that might be true, some might not, but I think there's at least some truth in that. Not to make excuses and not take away from Julianna Peña's big win. I think there is some truth that we did not see the best version of Amanda Nunes. And I think the best version of her does beat Julianna Peña. It's going to be a good, really, really good competitive fight. Nunes is going to conserve her energy well, and she's going to win a decision.
Jose, what do you think, man?
I think Amanda gets a decision done. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as like the Germaine or the Felicia Spencer fights, because Julianna has said this for a long time. They're the two best female fighters in the world. I don't agree with that, but they're obviously very clearly the two best bantamweights in the world right now. So I think it's going to be a competitive fight. I think Amanda Nunes gets it done, and she eventually will get the trilogy fight, and she's still, I think, the best female fighter of all time. Because like I've said a few times, it's one thing to just wipe the floor with everyone and be that dominant, but the ability to emerge from being down makes you great. That separates like that 1% of fighters. We've seen that with Charles Oliveira and Glover Teixeira. I think we're going to see that with Amanda Nunes against Julianna Peña.
Jed, are you going with the dog a second time? What's the official pick here? The head is already shaking. What you got?
I'm genuinely surprised we're all on Nunes by decision, but that's what I've got. I think it's going to be. I think she's going to win early. I think she's going to kick Julianna Peña's legs a lot because Sick Jitsu is a dumb camp who doesn't believe in leg kicks. And that's going to build the foundation for the win. I think Peña can make it a little scrappy in the middle rounds because she got that dog in her. But I think Nunes is going to take her down some too. And she had a great time on top of Peña in the first one. I think she's just going to kind of win more than lose the engagements, and she's not going to get drawn into a brawl, which doesn't favor her. So 49-46, maybe 48-47 decision for Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, I looked at this fight a number of different ways, but I have to say, Jed, your comparison that, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is
so good."
GSP. this is Sarah GSP, but it's not. It's more McGregor Diaz 1. And I feel like this rematch is going to look very similar to McGregor Diaz 2, where I think Amanda's going to, I think Amanda's going to have success for the first 9 minutes. I think Pena is going to steal a little momentum at the end of the second round. I think she's going to carry that momentum into the third, maybe even through the fourth. And I think we're looking at a 2-2 fight heading into round 5. And then it's just going to be one of those who wants it more type of scenarios. And I think sort of the early deposits with the leg kicks, the body work that Amanda will do early on, and then try to sort of add to in rounds 3 and 4. I think all that's just sort of going to kind of funnel over for Julianna Peña. So I think Nunes will be able to sort of eke out the 5th round and win the fight. And I think it's going to be a war. I think these two are just going to beat the brakes off of each other. It's going to be a fun fight, a way more competitive fight than a lot of people think, because I see a lot of people just on either side of the fence. Either we're going to see the exact same fight or Nunes is going to blow the doors off of her. And I just don't see that happening. I think these two are just going to have a really solid fight. Like, this isn't going to be Joanna Weili, but we're going to be having a discussion about, best women's title fights. And I think this one's going to be sort of right up there in terms of the drama, the swings, the seesaw battle that I think we're going to see. But I think Nunes, that championship grit, the experience, being in tough spots before, I think she will get over the hump. She will win the title again. And then we're going to have a trilogy fight. That's going to be just an awful lot of fun, I think. So I love that comparison. It made so much sense, Jed. So kudos to you, my man. Well done. No Bets Barred. Tremendous podcast.
Great
Tremendous
show.
podcast.
Great podcast.
Mike, there's a poll. There's a poll.
Oh,
I figured there was.
It's just who wins the UFC 277 main event. So people please vote in the poll. But right now it is at Julianna Peña 56%.
Wow, I love it. I love it.
So people please vote.
Please vote.
I'll read the final results later. No, I don't believe in those. No. Make it okay. I force the listeners and viewers to make a call.
Don't sit on the fence. Make choices.
Don't sit on the fence. Pick one, yeah.
There you go. Well, let's talk about the co-main event, because this is a great fight as well. Brandon Moreno, the former champion, was supposed to fight Deiveson Figueiredo, and for the 4th consecutive time, Figueiredo is hurt. So Kai Kara-France, who has a compelling case himself to fight for an interim title or fight for the undisputed title, he comes on in. It's Moreno, Kai Kara-France in a number 1 contender squared kind of fight, where not only is number 1 contendership on the line, we get an interim title, we get more money for both fighters. And this fight absolutely rules, Jose. I will allow you to wax poetic, because something tells me this one just is the one you have circled amongst all of these fights.
Yeah, I mean, the flyweight division is so fascinating because you have so many guys that could be fighting for the title right now, and and none of them would be the wrong combination. Like, if Pantoja was in this interim title fight, no one complained. If, like, Alex Perez, I know Alex Perez has had a couple weight misses, but if he had gotten a win in there, he could be fighting for the title again. Like, this division is so fun. Even like Brandon Royval is out there. I know he lost to Brandon Moreno, but that was kind of that weird fluky, like his arm like popped out of his socket early in the fight. So the flyweight division, for as much slack as it got and almost like disbanded a few years ago, is all of a sudden a lot of fun. Kai Kara-France has said it a lot. He's down to fight these guys that no one else wants to fight, because like Cody Garbrandt could have been fighting for the title right away at flyweight. Didn't he even have a matchup against Deiveson Figueiredo at one point, like booked when Figueiredo was the champion? So the fact that he took fight, Kai's like, I'll fight him, and then he wins. Like, if he got that win, if he got the title fight off of the win over Cody Garbrandt, no one would have batted an eye. Instead, they want, like, we want you to fight Askar Askarov in Columbus, Ohio, super far away from New Zealand. He's like, yup, bet, let's do it. And he won. So Kai Kara-France is one of these guys like Max Holloway, where Volkanovski said it himself, like, at the end of the day, the dude's fighting and he's winning. You can't deny him the shot. Kai Kara-France has looked better than ever since he lost that first fight against Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno's, of course, a lot of people thought he won the fight against Deiveson Figueiredo's last fight. I am not in that camp. I thought Figueiredo won, but Brandon Moreno is one, if not the second best flyweights in the world. And now he's in a new camp with James Krause, which a lot of people on this site call the cheat code in terms of like what he can do to a fighter and what he can bring out of a fighter in fight camp and in the fight. I am so excited for this fight. I don't care if there's a title on the line. I don't care if it's in a full arena. I don't care if it's in a tiny octagon. I don't care if it's in a big octagon. I don't care where this is. I just want to see Kai France fist fight Brandon Moreno, because they could be the two best flyweights in the world, and I want to find out who's the best. Also, James Krause versus City Kickboxing and Eugene Behrman. That's just a fun fight between coaches too, like two masters of their craft. There's no bad blood between them. This is just two martial artists that want to break brick and fight for 15 pounds of gold to fight for the undisputed title. So love everything about this. I'm glad it's 5 rounds. If this wasn't for an interim fight, I would have hoped it would be a headliner on a fight night, because I just want to see these guys throw down for 25 minutes. I am just supremely excited for this co-main event.
Yes, AK. I know how highly you think of James Krause as a coach, and James Krause has been in this position a couple of times, cornering, being the head corner, so to speak, for somebody fighting for a world title. Did it with Tim Elliott, did it with Megan Anderson, and now he's going to corner Brandon Moreno for a chance to become the interim champion. So your thoughts here? I mean, the coaching matchup is spectacular because James is great. He's great at just knowing his fighters and knowing what to say when the times are down. And even when the times are up and you need to go out there and kind of switch gears and go a little bit faster. But the coaching matchup is great. And just the fight itself is fantastic. The title doesn't even need to be here. Your thoughts on the co-main event and how good is it?
I love that you mentioned the James. Man, I know we're giving our picks. I'm probably tipping my hat here, but man, you team up the James Krause with the assassin, baby. The sky's the limit. Like I am thrilled. I'm thrilled at that alliance. Yeah, this is listen. We've said it a bunch of times. Interim, number one contenders bout, whatever you want to call it. It's great. These guys are getting paid. Hopefully they get pay-per-view points as well. And it's just as high. Again, this is the best fight you can make with Davison Figueroa out of the picture. So exciting too. I talk about the Moreno side, but so exciting to see Kai France reach this point, because he came in with quite a bit of hype actually. When he signed with the UFC, and then there was the murkiness of what was going to happen with the division. It just was never clear if this guy was gonna make it. And he was fighting. He was losing to good guy. Look, he lost to Moreno, right? That's one of his first guys he fought. So he's losing to good guys. But flyweight's one of those divisions. Man, you fall behind, you can easily kind of just become a 500 guy. It's just such a strong division. So when we started seeing him going to go on this run with Bontarine, and then just taking out Cody Garbrandt, and then really, really proving that he is who people said he was, with a win over Askar Askarov, a guy who's just been entrenched in that top 3, top 4 for the longest time. It's so exciting to see. So it's a fight where I hope, no matter what happens, that there's really no bad feelings on either side. Obviously, if you're rooting for Moreno, you're rooting for Kai France, you're going to feel some type of way. But both guys are so exciting, such great fighters. At least as far as I know, seems like very nice young gentlemen. So this is really kind of the perfect co-main event. This is like an ideal title fight co-main event, because it doesn't have the drama, doesn't have the rivalry of the main, but again, you're getting high level mixed martial arts. You're getting two guys who knows, could fight again a third time in the future. That's exciting. We might be looking at this as the middle chapter of a great rivalry. So yeah, I'm super hyped for it, and whoever wins is worthy of being called champion, even though again we know Figueiredo's up there with the undisputed belt.
Of course, the landscapers are very excited. They wanted to come in and hear this part of the conversation because they love the fact that the interim title's on the line. It's a great fight at 125 pounds. But Jed, you know what I love so much about this fight? One, that
Tell me.
Their first fight was a banger. It was a tremendous fight. It just feels like Moreno just kind of turned up the notch a little bit more and just kind of outdogged Kai France. But it was a great fight. And the fact that the first fight was so good and we get a potential 10 more minutes of it makes it even better. But where these guys are at right now, because I feel like you line up skill for skill, attribute for attribute, I feel like Moreno should win this fight. But Kai France is on the sort of run right now where it's just maybe this guy just can't lose. No matter who he fights, I just feel like there's a way that he's just a tough guy to beat. I just feel like he's on that run where he just might not lose for a long time and things are just kind of falling into place for him. That's why I love this fight so much. How do you break this one down?
Honestly, I feel a lot like that, right? My head says Brandon Moreno should win this because I think Kai Front's a good fighter, but I don't know. Moreno is just a better one. I think he can compete evenly, if not get the better of exchanges on the feet with Kai France. And he's the I would say, far superior grappler. He's certainly much more willing to engage in the grappling. And I mean, we've seen Kai Kara-France have some issues there. Like Askarov was able to control him for a little bit, but he was so focused in kind of a one-way thing. But we've seen Kara-France get caught up in transitions, and Brandon Moreno scrambles his ass off. Like, I could easily see Moreno just winning a scramble and ending up on the back and getting a choke in before Kara-France really knows what's going on. So my head says Moreno should win this, but I'm kind of with you. It does feel like Kara-France has a little bit of that energy that, okay, this guy's on his run right now. Like, this is his career defining run, and whoever you put him against, even if he shouldn't beat them, he's going to find the way. That's just how it's going to work out. I mean, plus you add in, no disrespect to James Krause whatsoever. I think he's a fantastic coach, but it rings very poignantly that when you mentioned the 2 title contenders he's had, they were not champions. Like, he did not turn Tim Elliott into a champion or Megan Anderson into a champion. And I'm not confident he can do that with Moreno. He might make him better, but we know for a damn fact that City Kickboxing produces champions, and just sort of where they're at. I mean, whatever your feelings are on Israel Adesanya's most recent fight, which wasn't entertaining, but it was absolutely dominant. And Alexander Volkanovski, obviously dominant, now number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, according to the only MMA rankings in the world. I mean, would it shock any of us if if Eugene Behrman just F's around and throws another champion into the mix? Like, it kind of feels like that. So my head says Moreno, but I guess my heart is saying Kara-France, and I don't know which to choose.
Well, now you have to, Jed. You have to choose now.
I hate that.
So there you go. What are we going with? Will it be Brandon Moreno as the interim champion, or will Kai Kara-France have a title and be on a road to fighting Davis and Figueiredo by the end of the year, perhaps?
I'm going to go with my head because I think Brandon Moreno is the best flyweight in the world. And I think that because he can win in all phases, whereas Kara-France has to stay upright to win this fight. I think I'm going to give him the edge, and I'm going to say he gets a submission in. Let's do early, like the second round. I think there's going to be a scramble, and I do think he'll find a way to get around the neck, and then that's the end of the game.
AK.
I just think Moreno. Well, I want to touch on something Jed said about we don't know if James Krause can create champions. Well, the good thing is he doesn't need to create a champion with Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno already is a UFC champion or has been. So we know he was, but he doesn't need to be created. He's a champion. He just needs,
he's not one now, so he has to create a champion. Got to make
that's
one.
That's not how that works.
If he's no longer a champion, you have to make him a champion.
He's already been a champion. This is a semantic thing. We know he can be a champion. That does not need to be proven. We know he can be. So I think he will be. So I'm going hashtag and again. I do think he's going to win the title back. I think he is going to. I do think he's going to finish him. I think he is going to submit him. I just think. I think that it does come from the fact that I have seen. I have seen him at that championship level. 3 fights with David. I mean, all with the same guy, yes, but man, 3 absolutely unbelievable fights. Kai Kara-France, for sure, could be, on that tier, what seemed like kind of like a 2-man tier with Brandon Moreno and Davis Figueiredo. He'd be part of Big 3. Who knows? Maybe Alexander Pantoja shows out on Saturday. Maybe it's a Big 4. But right now, I want to see if Kara-France can join Moreno and Figueiredo at the top. I think it's possible, but I am leaning towards Moreno to really, really make a statement. And we're going to end up getting that 4th Figueiredo fight somehow. I mean, a lot of people thought it was possible after the 3rd fight. It just would have been weird to see the 2 guys fight each other 4 times in a row. So that's why it didn't happen. I think he does beat Kai Kara-France and gets that interim title and forces Figueiredo's hand to meet him one more time. And then we'll be talking about that sometime next year, I think. So Moreno by submission.
Jose, Kai Kara-France, or Brandon Moreno?
I think people are going to be a little surprised at my pick. I can assume they think I'm going to pick the Mexican fighter, Brandon Moreno, but I'm not. I'm going to pick Kai Kara-France by decision. I think Brandon Moreno is awesome. He's clearly one of the 3, if not 2 best flyweights in the world. I just think Kai Kara-France has just put it all together, and he broke it down a lot at media day. Like, he lost to Brandon Moreno, and he watches that fight, and he saw tons of holes in his game. And if you watch the countdown and the embeddeds, his coaches and him said, like, when back then, he was just, when he fought, he just went in there to hit his opponent really hard and put him away. That's why he was like, "Don't blink," or something like that is his nickname. That's what he didn't really have game plans or put anything like that together. He just went out there and broke brick and tried to knock his opponent out. Now he's put it all together. He's complete. You saw that against Cody Garbrandt when he hurt him. He didn't just blitz in and just empty his gas tank. He was patient. He was calm. He waited for another opening and put it away. Brandon Moreno is really, really good. And James Krause is a really good coach. But I can't help but think about what Tyson Fury said in the build-up to his third fight against Deontay Wilder. You can change camps. High-level opponents, fighters can change camps. But at the end of the day, when you're in there and in your first camp, you eventually just fall back on what got you to the dance, because that is just who you are as a fighter. I think Brandon Moreno gets hit a lot. He gets kicked a lot, and he gets punched a lot. That's how Figueiredo won the third fight. That's how because let's not forget, the first fight was a draw, but I believe there was a point deduction somewhere in there, maybe. So that's why that fight ended up being a draw. I think Figueiredo obviously would have won that fight. If not for that, I think it was a groin shot or something. So I think Kai Kara-France gets it done. A lot of people saying that the 5-round experience is going to be the biggest factor. Kara-France has said that Eugene Bareman doesn't even prepare his fighters for 3-round fights. Every fight they do is for a 5-round fight, whether they're in a 5-round fight or not. So I think that's going to play a factor whatsoever. I think Kai Kara-France gets it done. I think he's going to win at least 3 rounds against Brandon Moreno. It's not going to be a 5-0 shutout. It's not going to be 4-1. I think it's going to be 3 rounds to 2 for Kai Kara-France.
Yeah, it's a really interesting fight. I will go with Brandon Moreno. I think he gets a decision, but I kind of agree with Jed that if anybody's going to finish this fight, it's going to be Moreno, just kind of catching Kara-France in some sort of
agree with that.
And,
I agree with that. If there's a stoppage, it's going to be Moreno. But I just think Kai.
I'd be stunned if Kai knocked out Moreno. That would be really surprising to me.
I agree. I would agree.
After taking Davison's best shots for over almost an hour.
And, honestly, if Kai does that, I'm going to reevaluate where Kai is on the pound for pound rankings, because Davison Figueiredo ain't no joke, and he couldn't put Brandon out.
Yeah, 100%. Love that fight. It's going to be a great way to lead into the main event. Feature bout, we got Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, Alexandria Pantoja versus Alex Perez, Magomed Ankalaev, Anthony Smith. That fight has continued to grow on me the closer we get. I don't think Jed really agrees with you there. Go ahead, Jose.
Like I said in the weigh-in show, a lot of people complaining about this fight card not having the star power, the draw power. 9 of the 10 fighters on the main card are in the top 5 of their division. So in terms of just high-level fights, it doesn't get much better than this main card. I know there's not a lot of draw power, star power, but just high-level martial arts, it's a good fight card. Good main card.
It's an excellent main card.
And that's the thing. The only thing you pay for is the main card. I think the prelims are dog. They're just trash. So I wouldn't give AK's 9 to this, just because you have to watch 4 very whatever hours of fighting before the main. But I'm only paying for 5 heaters. That's dope.
Yeah.
Why do you hate Ihor Porteria? Why, Jed? Why?
I can honestly say I don't hate him. I've never thought of him, and that means that I shouldn't. That means that me having to think of him, I'm not enthused. Hopefully, it'll be cool. I think there's going to be finishes on the undercard, but
yeah. What if I told you
the stakes?
What if I
so
told
low
you? What if I told you I made that name up?
What
if I told you I made that name?
I totally believe you. I don't know how to pronounce Poeter, whatever.
I believe it's Poteria, yeah, something like that. I'm going with Anik. I think that was how Anik did it. Yeah. Trust John Anik. Yes, and he's fighting Nikolai Negomarianu.
Man, that's a Scrabble contest right there.
Absolutely. All right, let's before we go to the peeps, AK, what's the low key banger on the card?
I don't know if it's going to be a banger, but I'm really interested to see how Jakar Close does. I really think he's just building a nice resume. It's not a sexy resume. He finally got his first UFC finish in his most recent fight with Brandon Jenkins, which he should have. Again, I think he's a level above Brandon Jenkins. And I think he's a level above Rafa Garcia too. And I like Rafa Garcia. But I think Close is one of those sleeper guys in the lightweight division. It's just so deep. And again, he hasn't gotten that many finishes. So he doesn't jump. He's not the first guy that jumps out at you. He's rightfully in the middle of the pack at 155 pounds. but I think he really does have the potential to break out of there. Is he a top 15, top 10 guy? I'm not sure, but I think he's going to put on a really. I think stylistically, it's like he has a lot of advantages. A lot of advantages against Rafa Garcia, and I think he'll kind of get to show off. I think Rafa's going to have his moments. He's a really good grappler, but I think Jakar has a style to kind of counter that. And I want to see if we get like possibly another finish for Jakar, and people are kind of really talking about him as a guy to watch at lightweight.
Jed, what do you got?
Honestly, I don't think there are any low key bangers on this card. Like,
There's one.
because I don't think Dobra Alves counts, but that's the best prelim fight for me. But I don't really care. I'm just gonna say this: the low key banger is Pantoja Perez, and I know that that's a main card fight between two top 5 guys, but it feels like no one's talking about it. And that fight is absolutely havoc. Like that fight, like if I could bet on post fight bonuses, I would put my money on that being fight of the night, and that includes 2 5-round fights, which are naturally advantage to that, and one of those being a flyweight bout with Brandon Moreno in it. I think Pants versus Perez is going to be absolute anarchy for however long it lasts. So that's the fight I'm the most interested in, and since the prelims are frankly not that interesting, I'm picking it.
Yeah, that could be fight, could be performance of the night. The way those two guys get after it.
Could be both.
Jose, Jose, are you with Jed here, or is there something else?
No, I mean the low-key bangers, Alex Moreno versus Matthew Semmelsberger. Matthew Semmelsberger is one of 2 fighters in UFC history to have knockouts under 20 seconds. The only other person not named Matthew Semmelsberger to do that is Rumble Johnson. Alex Moreno has low-key has the same amount of fights in the UFC as Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. This dude fights 3-4 times a year, and he hits really hard. And I'm pretty sure he finished Cowboy Cerrone. He's put together impressive wins, and then he stumbles. I know the Chaos Williams fight when he got knocked out, that was like a last-minute change-up, and then he lost to Anthony Pettis when Anthony Pettis was trying to get out of the UFC and sign with PFL. He lost, obviously, I think, not prime Jordan Maine, but when Jordan Maine was still breaking brick on people. And I can't remember who his other loss to was. There was super early in the career, but really exciting fighter. Saif Saeed's obviously his head coach. I think that fight, someone's going to go to bed. I don't know who, but someone's going to bed in Dallas. I assume Matthew Semmelsberger. Sure, either one. Semmelsberger, one of those fights one of the wins was against Martin Sano. Is that his last name? I can't remember. Whatever Nick Diaz's training partner was in that fight. Wasn't great, but still a knockout is a knockout, so that's the low-key banger. Also, 2 very underrated media days. Semmelsberger's yeah, MMA isn't a game. It's a fight to the death. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then Alex Moreno was like, yeah, they don't let me walk out to death metal. I'm like, it's a fist fight. They shouldn't care. They're like, yeah, the UFC has a problem with me walking out to doom metal or death metal. I'm like, that seems very silly considering your opponent literally said he's fighting to the death. So that is the low-key banger that not enough people are talking about.
Jed, I'm surprised you didn't say Semmelsberger Moreno, because I know how highly you think of Alex Moreno as a fighter.
I hate Alex Moreno because it's the prelim main event. It's the same reason I don't think Dober Hoff counts. I feel like those aren't low key because those are the prelim fights people are interested in. And so, but I mean, yeah, maybe. I'm with it. I'm with Jose. I think Semmelsberger's going to kill him mainly because I don't think Moreno's good. And Semmelsberger just is a super violent dude, but it also wouldn't shock me at all if Semmelsberger isn't good either. He's just violent. So that also has a real chance to be, as Jose pointed, over in 20 seconds. There's entirely plausible that Semmelsberger just obliterates him right out of the rip. So I don't know. These are the only fun fights though. The rest of the prelim stuff is all very forgettable.
I think Jocelyn Edwards versus Jian Kim could be really good too. It's just a shame that Jocelyn Edwards missed weight, so she will not be getting a fight of the night bonus if by some chance the second fight of the night somehow won that award.
I think that's going to be a tough fight. Is Kim not a flyweight normally?
Yeah, she's a flyweight normally, and her opponent Kim, big.
And Jocelyn Edwards fought at featherweight in her last fight. I know that was last minute, but I think that's going to be a tough fight. Anyway, go to the peeps.
Yes, let's go to the peeps. I'm going Anthony Smith, Magomed Ankalaev, by the way. I know. Yeah, I just think Anthony's. I think Anthony might be just the. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Anthony's gonna give Magomed Ankalaev everything he could want in terms of getting over that hump into title contention. So Anthony's going to get after him. Might not be the best strategy in the world, but yeah, but this will not be a boring fight. It will not be a boring fight. I feel pretty good about that.
I think they're gonna kick me out of this media room soon. So,
all right, let's go to the peeps. Let's pull up a couple questions.
Hello. All right.
Hi, Casey. Robert Thomas, I am the only one. I am only going to have time to watch one fight Saturday due to family commitments. That fight should be what? AK.
I'm going with the main event. I just think it's so intriguing. I think, it could be a repeat of the first fight, but we've all kind of said best case scenario, really competitive and dramatic 5-round fight. I think it goes that way. I know some of Nunes' 5-round fights have been a bit of a slog, not the most memorable encounters, to put it nicely, but I don't think Pena would allow her to kind of, slow the pace to that point where it's not a fun fight. So boring answer, main event. That's the way to go.
Jose or Jed, any of you going differently than the main event?
Dober Alves. If you can only watch one fight, don't spend $75 to watch the main event. Go to MMAfighting.com. Unbelievable website, best one in the whole wide world. We'll get you covered in all your coverage needs, get you breakdowns. I'll be doing live blogs. It's basically like you're watching the fight, in real time. And then watch Dober versus Alves for free, because I guarantee you that's going to be fireworks.
Jose.
I'll say Anthony Smith and Ankalaev, because the winner of that could fight Yuri Prohaska, and Yuri Prohaska is a absolutely psychopath. So pick that one because I just want to see Yuri fight either man. I know the co-main event rules, and I just kind of talked about it for a long time, but yeah, let's see who's gonna get thrown into a fist fight with the psychopath that is Yuri Prohaska.
That is my pick as well. That is the most intriguing fight on the main card. Like the main event and the co-main event are fun in different ways, but as far as intrigue, I just want to see. I just can't wait to see what happens with that one. I really can.
At media day, Anthony Smith also said the line, "I might be the best 3-round fighter in the world," and I'm very curious to see how that plays out for him.
You don't get put away in three round fights. That's for damn sure. It's been a long time since that happened. Since he was a middleweight.
Thiago Santos, 2018.
Yeah. There you go.
Remember when Thiago Santos used to be fun?
Yeah, in 2018.
Next week on MMAfighting.com.
And he's the main event. Is he the main event next week?
Sure is. Yeah. It's going to suck.
It's main event again. Wow.
Jed, he might be the first guy we do a damn they were good on before he's retired.
We could, because he's not good anymore.
All right.
What else we got? We'll take two more.
Two more.
Jose's got to go.
We haven't really
kick him out.
Yeah,
they don't have the ball.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many questions.
I also have to go get ready for ceremonial weigh-ins, which is in a whole nother location.
What we got here?
I could also sign out. You guys could just keep talking with people.
Yeah.
Should people be considered that Julianna waited to the last minute to make weight? To me, I think Amanda coming down to 135 all these years also caught up to her. Look at her face this morning. I think you meant concerned. I mean, how could you be concerned?
I'll say this because I'll take this one because I am here and from like after the fight, after she weighed in and everything, her coach was like, she was half a pound over at 8:30 a.m. Like she just cut weight and like took a nap. Like that's literally it. Like there was no gamesmanship, there was no trolling. Like she cut her half pound, went back to sleep, and they just brought her back down. That was it.
So she had so much pep. She had so much
pep.
Well
rested. She's well rested. Yeah. That's all. That's
what she came like you didn't see her because because like you obviously like get undressed in the back and come out. But when she came in, she was wearing like a sun skirt. Like her daughter was running around too. Like she did not look like she had a rough weight cut at all. She looked pretty on point.
She sure did. No concern whatsoever. Good troll job. Sleep away. Take those naps.
I don't think it was a troll job. She was just asleep.
Yeah.
Unintentional troll job. Let's talk about this gentleman. Maybe the biggest showcase fight on the card.
Where does Morales rank in your up-and-coming undefeated welterweights, Jose?
High up there. His last fight was January, if I remember correctly, right? I can't remember who he fought.
Trevin Giles.
This is a very narrow category.
The Anaheim card?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. He smoked Trevin Giles.
Trevin Giles always like, oh, I have the best, like one of the best, like jabs in the game and this and that. And Michael Morales is like, bet, watch this. Also, Michael Morales has just an incredible neck tattoo. So, he's Team Jose. He got it after the fight. So anyone that joins Team Neck Tattoo is fine by me. But this dude is really talented, like supremely talented. Like, what is his record? Like 13-0, 14-0, something like that? Like
13-0. 13-0.
And so he's 13-0. What are 10, 11 of those knockouts? He's really, really good. He's not
his only decision was his fight to get into the UFC on the Contender Series. Everything else has been finishes. Yeah.
I'm not comparing him to Shavkat because Shavkat's like super, super talented, and a lot of people consider him like a future champion. But Trevin Giles is a known name in the UFC. Like, he's fought a lot of talented guys. It's like when Shavkat came in and fought Cowboy Oliveira and just beat him pretty handedly. And then where do you go from here? Like, because he got thrown in a high level fight early, and now he just has to stay there. So if Michael Morales does this again and then again and again, I think we're looking at like because I thought the same thing with Miguel Baeza. I thought Miguel Baeza was going to be a problem in the top 10. Then he's lost a couple fights in a row, and now he's not even in the top 25. So I'm super, super curious. Where's he from? Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, somewhere around there. I think
Colombia.
Right?
Ecuador.
Yeah, Ecuador. So, yeah, I am super, super interested. It's also a really like interesting interview. Like he has the same type of humor where Peter Yan, when he'll say a joke in Russian and no one gets it, and then he says it, and then he just sits back and he's like smirking and he's like waiting for the translator, and then the translator says it and everyone laughs. Michael Morales is the same thing. He'll say something and he'll just like sit back and be like, you guys don't know what I said. It's very funny. I like this guy. I like this kid a lot.
Yeah, he's good. Dude's fun to watch. It's definitely fun to watch. And
this is just such a narrow category and he's obviously at the bottom of it. Because the question is he better than Shavkat or Chimaev? No. He's also only 23 though.
Or Sean Brady.
Yeah. Sean Brady.
Also, no.
Daniel Rodriguez, you want to throw him in there, right? Yeah.
Like it's.
Dude,
I think the Baeza
one was so fun.
Yeah. I think the Baeza comp is like that feels to me like that's where he because Baeza could still come do some stuff, but like.
Dude, and the losses that he had,
nobody before the UFC. Like he beat nothing worthwhile, and then he's got some good efforts now.
And then Miguel Baeza, like he beat Matt Brown, and then he had like a fight of the year against Santiago, and then he just got caught in back. Like he was doing really good until he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. I think the Baeza comp is like spot on.
Someone in the comment section said Ian Gary. That is a fascinating fight that I've never thought of.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
too.
the young man who asked this question. Yeah, the young man who asked the question just threw out Ian Gary's name.
Ian Gary versus in like 2 years from now, who has like not in terms of height, but like the better career, like in terms of wins and everything. That is interesting. Who's more talented?
Yeah. I think that's right around. I think they're right around that level too. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, they're definitely like a tier below. Like I said, Shavkat. Yeah, that's a really good.
They're gonna fight each other in 2 years. And that's fight.
And by the way, he just turned 23. By the way, he's not like middle of. He just turned 23. So early, way too early to tell.
The welterweight contender. We don't need to go into detail about it because it's more of a fan Q&A question for tomorrow. But this is the welterweight. I'm so.
What do you think, Casey? Because I feel like you're really excited about this.
Dude,
this is a you question.
You should be excited by this. Why the hell aren't you guys excited?
Oh my god, this was as big. This is like to me even bigger than when the UFC got Izzy. Like,
well, that's insane.
Okay,
Cedric,
hit the music.
All right.
I don't need to see this man mix the martial arts. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Listen, this man was doing just fine in his world. Now, why mix the martial arts? Why?
Because he don't need to. I'm sorry. Does Izzy does dude like the Glory Champions come over and mixing the martial arts? Dude, just kicking the shit out of people. Yeah, I was blanking. They just come over and they kick the shit out of people, and it's way cooler. If MMA could just turn into Glory in a cage, and then like there's a Habib thrown in every once in a while, sport would be better for it. It's way better.
I think we're all excited, and everything about it's great.
Keep the martial
arts. He's going to debut in Paris. He's going to fight Darian Weeks, which is a perfect opponent.
It is.
Love everything about it. So we'll see what happens. But okay, we're done. Jose, you are free. Enjoy these ceremonial weigh-ins. You can watch the highlights on MMA Fighting's YouTube channel. You can watch them live on MMAfighting.com.
Great YouTube
And we'll be
channel.
back.
Great
The best.
website.
Great YouTube channel. Tremendous website.
The
And we'll
best.
see you tomorrow, probably around like 5:15 Eastern for the People's Pre-Fight Show. For AK, for Jed, for Jose, Casey on the 1s and 2s. I am Mike Heck. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
58% Pena wins. 58%.
Wow. That is
Pena.
wild.
Yep.
Put your money where your mouth is. I want that
Everyone
line to
voted.
come down.